Cohen's the Paris bureau chief for the New York Times. Roger's with me now. It's always good to see you, sir. How weakened is Macron? I mean, this was his tentpole policy. To the extent he's got it through, fine, he goes down in the history books. But what's it left him at?
Well, hi, Richard. I think he is somewhat weakened and somewhat isolated. As you noted, opinion polls are now showing him with around 28% support. That's as low as it's been since the Yellow Vest movement 4+ years ago. The bond between him and French people is frayed if it's not broken. He's appeared remote and he's appeared uninterested until very recently in speaking to unions. And the way it was rammed through in the end through this so-called 49-3 measure, which avoided a vote on the law itself and reduced approval to a vote of confidence or not in the government. He survived that. His government survived that. But yeah, he's compared to the wunderkind who appeared on the scene in 2017, he's certainly a much weakened figure today.
I was just looking at the, I know compare and despair is somewhat odious, but Britain's retirement age 66, USA 67, Germany 65.7. The closest you get is the EU average at 64.3. So the sort of the gap between what Macron adding 2 years and the size of protests to the rest of us seems a little extreme.
Well, you say to French people, well, what about Italy at 67? What about Germany getting near 66? What about the Netherlands? And they will say, yeah, but we're France. We're France. It's different. We have a different social model. We are attached to it. We have a different appreciation of the right work-life balance. And we do not want to change these things. We fought hard for them in the first place, and we want to preserve them. And of course, President Macron has a point when he says people are living much longer. You can't have fewer and fewer people working to support the pensions of more and more people in retirement. The logic of it is inexorable and pretty much indisputable. But French people are attached to their way of life, and arguments that others have done similar things do not work here, are ineffective. And there is anger about a whole lot of other things, about inflation, about just a lot of families struggling to get to the end of the month. And here we are.
And we're looking at pictures now of argy-bargy in Paris, and it's getting all a bit rowdy. Elections are some way off now, both legislative and presidential. His term limited. In a sense, does he have time to restore himself or his party or his agenda in the eyes of the electorate?
Richard, he has time. He has 4 years. That's a long time. The question is, can he find a message? He was trying to talk about that tonight. He was trying to talk about a new élan, in his phrase, for France, a new pact for life and work, some increased pay for teachers, some other measures on professional training. He's straining, he's searching for some galvanizing message that can bring him through the next 4 years and avoid his nightmare. What is the nightmare of Emmanuel Macron? The nightmare of Emmanuel Macron that keeps him awake at night is that he will be succeeded by Marine Le Pen, the far-right nationalist xenophobic candidate whom Macron twice defeated in 2017 and 2022. He does not want to be remembered as the last president before the far right returned in France for the first time since Vichy.
Finally, as we look at these pictures, I just want to talk about this row with China and whether the president was trying to put clear water between himself or France and the United States vis-a-vis China. Now, at the IMF, Bruno Le Maire sort of said, yes, we are, but at the same time, you know, there's not this massive gap. Europe speaks with one voice, etc., etc. Do you get the feeling They are trying to tell us black is white, the square peg will go in the round hole, and nothing to see here, keep moving along.
Well, allied but not aligned is a French phrase, allié mais pas aligné, that has been around for a long time. And we all know that de Gaulle, very soon after the United States and the Allies won World War II, struck out and wanted a more independent position for France. President Macron is a Gaullist in that sense. He's in that tradition, and he believes very strongly in what he calls strategic autonomy for Europe. I was in China with the president, and Xi Jinping laid on an extraordinary reception, spent more than 6 hours with President Macron. I think France has every right, Europe has every right to have its own position on China. I don't think anyone is disputing that. The question is, to some degree, seduced by this extraordinary reception he had in China, did President Macron go a little too far in embracing the language of Xi on the need for a multipolar world and all the rest?
Right.
You know, it did look at times as if he had.
Roger, it is always lovely and good to talk to you and get the perspective. I'm grateful that you're with us. Thank you, Roger. We'll continue to look at these pictures coming to us from